Okay, so in this video, I'm going to cover the list because we have already covered your strings in here. So list we are going to cover in this one. And for covering the list, I will just, utilize your VS Code, the regular VS Code. Okay, so I'm just going to utilize this one. And of course, uh, we we do have like other editors such as Emacs and VI as well as Vim. However, see, the problem in that is that typically we have to, um, you see, learn the command lines because I know, like, from the perspective of a standard 12 student, that will be very difficult to do. That is why we are going to just, uh, go on with the VS Code itself and we'll see how to utilize that, right? So we'll go to go and see how to utilize that. Now, of course, when you talk about, of course, we also have to like, I will also like post some videos, hopefully, if I get some time regarding, how to program in phones. So handsets, you could say, or you could say smartphones. How could you program in smartphones? I will post videos if I'm able to do that in the future. So yeah. So let's go back to the list. So when we talk about lists are usually with the square brackets. Okay, it is with the square. It is with the square bracket, and there are some inbuilt operations in it. Not operations, but rather the precise wording will be the attributes. According to the Python documentation, it will be attributes. However, we could say that these are inbuilt functions, and these inbuilt functions will actually, uh, change or operate on these list elements typically. Right? So that is there in list. So when we talk about list and Python and other stuff, let's try to do it in two ways. One is the native shell of Python. Another one is your through the VS Code. Okay, so these two ways we are going to uh, try these commands. Okay, so my suggestion is to always type your own code and do not copy paste it. I have already given the copying function in this one. Uh, so yeah. In any case, let's see. Can we maximize or minimize this one? Yes, this is the styling system will have that functionality. Let me just if we using this one. Okay. So this was just an update which I did in my operating system. So the native one, you can just call it by calling Python in this one. Okay, so you could see like what is the version of this one. This is Python 1, Python 1.3.5, and so on, so on. Okay, so this is how you check your version of the Python and what GCC it is using as well as other stuff. Okay, so I'm utilizing a Linux distro because I'm more familiar with it, more familiar than other proprietary softwares. That is why I use this one. You can go ahead and utilize any other operating system whichever you want, but however the implementation will be quite a bit different in those conditions. Also, the fact that I utilize this Linux distro is because it is open source and it is very good for academics or the students who are studying because students don't have much money to begin with at the start. So let's try this one. So list starts from like L stands for list, and we denote this by uh, square brackets. Typically, we call it brackets in a typical proper English of uh, when we talk about English in context of American English or like US English, these are called brackets, or simply these are called brackets, right? And then we have some inbuilt operations in this one. Inbuilt operations, when I say it is inbuilt operations, these are technically these are your attributes. Okay, so these are your attributes, and of course, when these are your attributes, they will do some work in this one. So they will operate on the elements on of this list. Okay, so the elements are these. These ones are the elements. Now, I'm saying this, these are elements. However, typically we have to understand that in context of Python, we call this items. So these, each element of this list is actually items in this one. Okay, so that is there. Okay. And okay, now let's see what is this list holds. Now it has one more element which is 40. So it has 10. Previously it had 10, 20, 30, and then afterwards it had 40. Okay, so it this append actually adds one more element in, or one more item in it. Okay. Now next is your another attribute we have like I have written in here is insert one. Okay. So insert is simply like another attribute of the list class. So we can insert also. So if we position whatever the indexing number is, which is the first argument, and then afterwards we put, we put your um, typically your element in the second argument, and then we get whatever the element or the whatever the item we are trying to put at the index number, we will get that in the result of that your list. Okay, in that list we'll get that. Okay, so that is there. So let's see what it has. Right, so because indexing starts from 0, so this one is 0, this one is 1, this one is 2, this one is 3, and this one is 4. So indexing starts from 0, and then it starts from 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is why when I insert the number 15, the integer 15 in here, okay, when you insert the number 15 in here, then what happens that this is at index 1. So since we count from 0, it goes in here. So because at position 1, we get this in here. Okay, so that is there. And of course, there are other functions, inbuilt functions which we can use. Typically, these are inbuilt functions. These are attributes. Uh, and since it is using a dot operator, so this one is all these functions are using dot operators. So that means that it is typically what it is that it is a method inside the list class. Internally, it is a method inside the list class. That is what it is. Okay, that is what it is. So like if let's say if you keep this in here and if you use the pop uh, inbuilt function, then what will happen is like it will take out the last index number item and it will take it and it will get that out of the picture. So mm, typically when I say it is out of the picture, I get like out of the list, out of the list. Okay, so when I do L pop, so L is your list which was having these four items in it, and it will pop it, and after it pops it, it will remove that 40 item or the number out of that list. Okay. So now it has your, let's say, um, so it has no 40 in it, but it has 10, 15, 20, and 30 in this one. Okay. Now also it has the remove attribute also. So when we talk about remove attribute, it is typically, again, it's an attribute. So it is a method or a function inside the list class. So since the list is now an object in this one because we have initialized it before with the assignment of this one. So it is now an object. So we are going to use the dot operator, and from the dot operator we are going to remove this one, which is 20 item number, which is again in the second index number. Okay, so that is what we are going to remove. Okay, now when we see what this list holds, just by like, putting the variable name in which this list is addressed to. Okay. And we have in here like 10, 15, and 30 we have in here. So the 20 item number is removed. So we have 10, 15, and 30. Okay, so that is there. All right. Now, of course, there are other attributes in this, and typically we can do these operations. So what happens is that we have these are, you know, typically these are mutable. So when we understand what is mutable in here, mutable means that it can change, right? So from the biological context, you could understand that mutable, something is mutable, and that means that they have evolved faster than what the chronological time has allowed for a regular evolution, typically. Okay, so that is the mutations in biology. So in mutations in your computer science, then it becomes as like, uh, you can change something that is mutable. Okay, you can change something that is mutable. So that is the meaning of mutable in this one. So from the analogical context, biology is mutable, changes the organism rapidly. And in case of computer science, mutable is your typically it is it is those things which you can change during the runtime of those programs. Okay, so during the runtime of those programs, you could change it. Right. So next is your let's see. Uh, yes, we should do one thing is like we should save this one because I've done this in interactive mode. Right. So we should just save this in here. And we should do one more modification in this one is like we should print this out. Okay. So after every operation, we will just print this out so that at least we will know that what operation is being done. Okay. So we will just print this out. Uh, right. So we will just print this out. And while printing this out, it is good to like whatever the comments are written in here. So like to make it more presentable, typically to make it more presentable, we can just add this comment as another output of the print. So that we can do. Okay, that we can do. Okay. Because when I wrote this book, um, I usually made it from the perspective of standard 12 student. So usually they will use interactive mode in IDLE, which is integrated development learning environment. So it was aimed for that. However, since these videos are open in the internet, so maybe like even some intelligent students will also utilize it and they will utilize VS Code. So in those cases, in those cases, uh, we have to, cater to some intelligent students as well. So that is why um, we have to typically have some more presentations and these as well. Okay. So, okay, let me exit this one. So it's native uh, REPL has started. Okay. Now, I know confusions happen a lot during during the studies and a lot of things happen. So confusion happens a lot. If you have any confusions regarding these things, do not be, typically do not just stay quiet and ask, typically because uh, we cannot read your mind typically right now. Because when you will see that this one and when you will not see this one, I don't know. Maybe in future you will see this at some point of time. So in those cases, you should typically ask questions if you have some doubts in this. Okay, so typically, yes, this is the Python version in this one, and in here it is Python 3.135, and this one is 3.14.3, right? So this is typically different implementation of Python, and this is the local implementation of Python in this one. And another one is this one is the system implementation of this one. Okay, so it changes from 0.13 to 0.14, and this one is using Clang, and otherwise this one is using your GCC. Clang and GCC are your different compilers of C, and depending on the compiler, the C will work, C language will work. In any case, since why this is in a local context, that is because due to some development work before, I had to implement the 3.14, which was not packaged with this Linux distro. So I had to compile that Python source code to uh, to the local repository, and from there I had to make it. So that is there. But still, there is no changes in the source code. This is the regular Python 3.14 version. And if somebody is confused regarding that, just keep a note that this is the system implementation on June 13. It was like GCC, and now in here it is Clang. So typically we utilize Clang and GCC depending on whatever we are implementing on it. So those different things are there. Okay. In any case, um, moving on. Right, let's run this. So to run this, we can utilize this one. Okay, if it is properly, if your system is properly set, or we can run this manually as well. Right. So let's see if it runs in here. So it is now utilizing 3.14, and it is giving an error in here, which is what? This is a type error. So this is what list append takes only one argument. Two is given. So of course I have given two arguments in this one. This argument will not be in here, right? So this is the debugging one. So once you have implemented the code, it will be the debugging process. Okay. So now when we remove this one, of course, the second argument will be in the print statement. Okay. So when we save this one and when we run this, so now it uh, gives out the proper output with the comments as string. Okay. So that is how you understand the debugging part. So this is the debugging part, as in we have error in here, L append, and this. So also says that in which line number it is. So it says that in line number 2. So the error was in this line number 2 in here, right? This was the error. And from there, we have to we have fixed those errors. Now, another thing is let me see. We have to talk about version control systems. So when we talk about version control systems, typically version control systems are they manage the versioning controlling of the version of your your source code. So these are typically your source codes, and In these source codes, we have to have some versioning system set up so that we can track where the software is progressing. Now, the thing is, there are different kinds of versioning systems. So there is SVN is there is Mercurial is there is Git is there. The most popular one is Git. So what we are utilizing in here is the Git. So we are utilizing Git in here. Okay. And in Git, uh, I've already set up my credentials in here. So if you want to check your credentials, so you could check from this command like git config and then two hyphens and list. There is a space in here, so keep in mind of that. So you could say that see that yes, this is my credentials and the editor for commit messages are is vi, which is basic terminal editor, text editor, which we utilize, and my email and other stuff is in here. Okay, so those things are there. Again, this is my older email. I do not utilize this one. I have a newer email now. Um, yeah, so at least I should just update this one afterwards. Okay, and next, what we have. Okay, now the thing is, when we are doing this, so how you commit to your project? Okay, commit, when you talk about commit is like when you have made your code, you will record this in your VCS, so which is your version control system. So we will utilize like git commit, uh, and your credentials are saved, so you will just type down as git commit -am, and then that will be what? That will be include example of list as well as their at, uh, attributes, right? So again, this again says that on the branch master untracked files, and this is not added, right? So because this is a new file, it also shows in here as a green one, and it also shows in here as a red one. So in the terminal, you will see that as a red, and in the side panel, you will see it as a green mark. So to add this, you could add it like this: git add. Two ways to add it. If you have done a lot of work and there are a lot of changes in the files, and you are sure that everything in those files are there and good, like they're working properly, so you could just utilize that git add hyphen a. It is not minus a, it is hyphen a. So you could utilize this one, or if you want to just add the current folder, not not the internal files of inside the folders, then you could use git add hyphen sorry git add space dot. So these two things you can utilize in this one, right? So because I have just one folder in this one and not subfolders in it or the subdirectories in it, so I'll just use this one, and it will just add all the files which was not added. So you will see that on branch master, we have new file called list.py, and it is staged to be committed. Now, when we commit it, the commit in here actually means that the commit will actually record that work in your version control system. So it will be your VCS. This one, in this case, it is Git. So let me just add this one. Now, of course, if uh, you are utilizing, if you have added a new file and you just have to commit for that new file, then you will just utilize that m switch, and for that you will also just record a message what this work was for. So this was again include example of list as well as their attribute. Okay, so okay, now this is recorded, and you could check what are the changes by utilizing this command as git commit. No, sorry, this will be git config. No, This will be git log. Okay, git log hyphen p, and this will give you all the details that was changed. So I only added one file, which is written in here is like this b plus plus b is there, and then all these lines I've added in this file, in this list file, all these are written in green. Whatever it is written in red, it is usually the ones which is removed from your source code. So that is simple understanding of Git with your list theory, right? Now, again, when you talk about list, these lists actually come under something called your collective data types. So these are called collective data types. So let me just if I have an open board with me, then that will be helpful. Okay, I have an open board with me. Okay, so let me just change the background to match the theme of this. Okay, so when we talk about, yeah, let me just go to desktop. So this will be a bit difficult to move for me. My hands are still not properly working. Uh, in any case, we will figure this out. Okay, got it. All right. So, so when we talk about, when we talk about your list, this come under typically it comes under your something called collective data types. Okay, comes under your collective data type. Okay. In any case, like it looks like a writing of a child. I understand that, but like my hands have not been healed yet properly, so excuse the handwriting. That that is there. And it's a collective data type in here. Okay, the collective data type. Right? The collective data type. In collective data types, there are many data types in there. But list is one of them typically. Okay. List is just one of them. Okay. Let me just go back to the desktop. Right. Now, next in the next video, what we are going to study is we are going to study tuples. Okay, we are going to study tuples, and we are going to understand like what does tuples do. Okay. This is just a revision, so I'm not going to explain much. These videos are typically for mostly practical oriented stuff, so I will just put in some practical oriented implementation on how to implement different source codes, also how to implement your own project on different systems. Those things I will also explain later on. Okay, so thank you for being in this video as well as watching this. Hopefully it has helped you. Again, these websites which is I'm providing, which is a merge of a book, notes as well as a website. These websites which I provide, this is not for profit. It doesn't collect any data. If you visit in there or not visit in there, it doesn't collect any data. Just for the sake of education purpose, this is there. And of course, I have the copyright in here. But if you're just printing it for yourself, or if you're just using this content for your own studies, or your own Yeah, if you're just using it for your own studies, you're free to do so. There is no restrictions in those things. However, you cannot distribute it or you cannot sell this thing unless until I give you my permission regarding that. Okay, so that is there. Um, yeah, so let me just exit this one. Exiting your Python shell is with the exit function. So that is there and clear will clear out everything in this one. Right. Thank you.